In today's video, I'm going to reveal why you're being too cheap and how to spend more during your retirement. After helping hundreds of people comfortably retire, I noticed that many people fall short of their spending projections because they miss out on this one key concept. And that's why I'm making this video today so that you can know exactly what this gap is and how you should actually be planning for your expenses during retirement. Let's get right into it. I need to point out that too many retirees live unnecessarily frugal lives because they're afraid of running out of money, even when their finances suggest that they could enjoy more. Many people struggle with a scarcity mindset that keeps them from enjoying more of what their money could provide. And then they restrict themselves unnecessarily. They limit their lifestyle and they miss out on some of the most active years of retirement. And I think they do this for two reasons. First, they've been good savers for decades, and it's difficult to shift into the spending mode. And secondly, their withdrawal plan is so wishy washy that they don't trust it. I always know when a person doesn't have a good plan, or at least they don't have a good mindset about their plan, when I hear them saying things like, the market did well this year, so I'll spend a little bit more. No, the market doing well one year should not greatly influence your spending plan. Or they say things like, if the market does bad next year, then I'll cut back. Here again, the market doing poorly in one year should not greatly influence your spending plan. You see, good withdrawal plans don't feature those types of spending changes. Even the withdrawal strategy that I promote quite often, the risk-based guardrails strategy, it doesn't require or call for those types of adjustments only based on what happens in the market in one year. But back to the psychological barrier of spending money in retirement, people really do struggle with it. I mean, if you've ever heard of Mr. Money Mustache, so he's a blogger who became famous for retiring in his early 30s, and he lives a crazy frugal life and he enjoys it. He says that he enjoys it. His spending is ridiculously low. So think about like only buying in bulk from Costco, riding a bike more often than you drive your car, don't use your AC very often, that sort of stuff. Well, he did an experiment with spending more money than he usually does. So he stayed in nicer hotels when he traveled, he used his AC more, things like that. And he felt like he was going all out on his spending. But at the end of the year, in fact, it was a 2 year period, he only spent $10,000 more per year than usual. He had intended to spend more, but he was surprised when he remained under the budget in relationship to like his total nest egg and what his true spending capacity is. We work with a couple, let's call them Mike and Susan, who did a really good job preparing for retirement. They were well saved, they had no debt, and they had a very clear, well thought out retirement income plan. And we had already gone through the numbers together and they knew exactly how much they could safely spend each year without jeopardizing their long-term security. But a few months into retirement, they weren't spending anywhere near that amount. So instead of taking the road trip that they had talked about taking for years or upgrading their kitchen that they had planned on upgrading, they were clipping coupons and stressing over small expenses, like whether dinner out twice a week in the same week was too much or not. So I asked them, help me understand this. What's holding you back? And Susan said, I guess it just feels wrong to spend the money, even though I know we can. And that's when it hit me. The real issue wasn't the math, it was the mindset. They weren't lacking a plan, they were stuck in decades of saving mode, and they hadn't really given themselves permission to enjoy what they worked so hard for. So over time, with regular check-ins and small steps, they started to shift and weekend getaway here and a guilt-free splurge there. And eventually they found their rhythm, not reckless, but relaxed. This is a good reminder that even the best retirement plan can fall short if we don't feel free to live it. And that's why conventional withdrawal strategies fall short oftentimes. They focus solely on the math, how much you can spend without addressing the emotional side of retirement. And knowing the numbers isn't enough if fear, guilt, or decades of saving habits are still holding you back. It always comes back to how we think, and most of us have outdated beliefs about retirement, whether we know it or not. And those beliefs influence us so that we struggle to enjoy the very freedom that we've been working for. Most people who watch this channel are not yet retired, but you're working towards it. And if you become aware of some of this unhelpful thinking, it can help you to do better. The chief offending belief that I see people struggle with is this: if I start spending more now, I'll run out of money later. And that underlying thought keeps retirees in perpetual saving mode. And the second offending belief is I need to leave a large inheritance for my children. And they believe that at the expense of their own quality of life. Now, you might disagree and say, oh, well, I won't give up my quality of life to have a bigger legacy for my children. But I would encourage you to search your heart on that issue and make sure that it's not going to become something for you down the road when you do retire. An academic paper titled Spending in Retirement Determining the Consumption Gap highlighted the problem of higher wealth retirees grossly underspending in relationship to their true ability to spend. It noted that the adequate retirement savings are almost always determined by looking at flatline spending in retirement. So what that means is something like the 4% rule. So $40,000 from $1 million in retirement savings plus inflation adjustments every year. And unfortunately, that's what all of these financial professionals are doing when they put together a plan. And the paper pointed out that these rigid methods ignore fluctuating spending needs. People want to spend more money earlier in retirement and a little bit less as time goes on. In that blog post that I mentioned by Mr. Money Mustache, he had spent 2 years going off of the feeling that he was spending more than usual. He didn't check in until the end of the 2-year period, and his results were that he had spent way less than he thought, and he spent way less than he could afford to spend. Now, if you feel like you're in a similar mindset where you don't know what you can comfortably spend, I want to invite you to click the first link in the description to watch a complimentary video that my team put together. And we'll go over the exact steps that you need to take to not only create a good spending strategy, but to optimize your retirement as a whole. If you struggle to spend, it doesn't just limit the experiences that you get to have, but it also can become something that we end up regretting someday, especially when someday we look back on our healthiest years. And in my book, no amount of money can compensate for that. Too many people postpone their bucket list travel until they're physically unable to fully enjoy it. And maybe they put it off because they worry about money. A lot of stress and anxiety around money, it's caused by putting off taking some type of action, whether that action be setting up a good plan that you feel great about, or maybe the action of just working on these mindsets that we talk about in these videos. We see some people who neglect to improve their quality of life, like hiring some extra help around the house or buying new furniture, moving closer to family. Back to that blog post by Mr. Money Mustache, he's a guy who is happy with what he has. And believe me, it's pretty minimalistic compared to just about anybody's standard, but he doesn't have a scarcity mindset. And he said in his post that he'd like to have a bigger garage, but he wouldn't really want to give up the amenities in his house or his neighborhood to have that. So he's going to keep his eye open for a house with a bigger garage in the same neighborhood. But in the meantime, he's happy. The true purpose of retirement savings is to fund your ideal lifestyle, not accumulate the largest possible estate. Many people act like their goal is to preserve their nest egg at all costs, and that's why they were good savers in those early years. But we need to prepare to use our wealth strategically so we can maximize our life satisfaction across all phases of retirement. Sometimes I find that people just need to consider the thought that the goal is to have life experiences, just that thought. But it's hard because people cling to the amount of money that they have in their portfolio. And if that goes below a certain level, they feel bad. And that's a perfectly natural thing to have happen as human beings, right? I want to give you an example. Think about, for just a moment, the good old days when almost everybody retired with a pension. People who retire solely with pensions, they don't have this problem because they think about how reliable that steady monthly income is rather than the magic portfolio number. If you take these actions and you do some really great stuff with how you're thinking about retirement, you can conquer that preservation at all cost mindset. And if you do that, that can really give you the reward of maximum life satisfaction, right? So that you can strategically enjoy your resources rather than only looking at the number. Remember, people spend during retirement in phases, and those phases resemble a spending smile. And when we allow ourselves to spend more earlier in retirement, we don't miss out on life's experiences. And when our withdrawal strategy tells us when it's okay to spend even more, then we don't end up like the statistics say, where retirees are dying with more money than when they actually began retirement with, unless that's something that you want. And the withdrawal strategy that tells you when it's okay to spend more, the best, is called risk based guardrails, not strategies that are based on fixed static percentages. And we do even better for ourselves when we connect our retirement planning to our values and dreams rather than arbitrary preservation targets. Now, let's explore how you can optimize your spending to secure a far better retirement outcome. Rather than offering a cookie cutter plan, I want to help you to uncover a framework that can give you the confidence and the clarity to spend in a way that aligns with your own retirement vision. So, here's the framework. The first thing you want to do is visualize multiple retirement scenarios. What would your life look like if you retired earlier? Or what if you worked part time? You see, you want to ask these questions because you can create more than one plan. In fact, many people do. And you can get a lot of confidence from watching and looking at multiple versions of your plan because it can allow you to see the possibilities, the what ifs, we call them. Next, question rigid withdrawal rules. Have you been limiting yourself with a fixed spending amount? What if you considered a more dynamic approach like the guardrail system that I mentioned in other videos? If you do that, you might discover that you can retire on a lot less than you think. And then next after that is you want to prioritize your active years. Write down any experiences that you've been postponing that you might enjoy now more than later. Even if you're still working, could you do some of those things now? After that, it's important to identify your spending permission triggers. This is where your anxiety is going to come from when you retire. You might need to use your imagination a bit if you're still working, but here's an example of just a few triggers that we've seen people deal with. Wanting to help an adult child with a down payment on a house or with their debt. Paying for family vacations to create memories. Finally, upgrading your home after years of making do. Taking more than one vacation a year. Paying for housekeeping, paying for a physical trainer when maybe you've never had one before, or even celebrating milestones like retirement itself. And there are many more, but if you write down your list, when they come up, you can make a choice to give yourself permission rather than automatically saying no to them. Remember, this is in service of you getting more experiences in retirement, more out of life from your money. Next, after that, you're going to align your spending with your personal values. This is where you connect your spending to things that you think will bring you genuine fulfillment rather than just temporary pleasure. So if you value family and relationships, then you prioritize those family vacations. If you value health and vitality, then you invest in more expensive gym memberships and the trainer. If you value freedom, then you spend on experiences and hobbies, or even maintaining a second home that offers a getaway. And you might even put some parameters on it. And practically, you might even write it down like this on your plan. We're comfortable spending $10,000 to $15,000 a year on travel without affecting our long-term plan. This way, your goal feels abundant and purposeful without feeling reckless or guilt-ridden. And then after that, you want to challenge your scarcity mindset by asking where your beliefs about money and spending originate. You know, there's a book that I read years ago. It's called The Energy of Money by Dr. Maria Nemeth. And in it, she asked, if your relationship with money were a person, how would you describe it? Is it like your mother-in-law and you keep her at some distance, or over there in a spare bedroom? Is money like a one-night stand, here today and gone tomorrow? Or can you relate to it like a supportive partner, reliable, nurturing, and aligned with your life goals? My point is, take some time to investigate where your beliefs about money came from. You know, my grandfather was influenced by growing up in hard times, and that in turn influenced me. But eventually, he gave himself permission to enjoy his retirement. But it wasn't easy at first. What would an abundance mindset look like for you? Maybe it looks like being happy with where you're at, but on the lookout with what's next and what other possibilities are out there for you. Now that you know what this retirement spending challenge is and how you should actually be thinking about your spending during retirement, as you saw with a lot of these examples, there's a mindset challenge that retirees are faced with. I know a lot of this information can feel overwhelming, especially if you're just realizing it now. And if you're concerned about your own plan and you want to see how we help people to retire with calmness and clarity, I want to invite you to click the first link in the description and you can watch a video that I put together and it shows you exactly how we do it. I'll see you in the next video.